Hi people, Daniel from Devil & Sons Guitars here, and today B is for... It's for bridge. Yeah, so the bridge is the part of the guitar which controls so many elements of keeping it perfectly working. It's here that you set the string action, it's here that you set the intonation, and it's here that you might have a whammy bar to control vibrato and dives. All three of those things are being covered in this A to Z list. So like and subscribe and go back through the playlist to see those videos. But for now, let's talk about what exactly is a bridge. Each bridge is going to be the anchor point for the back end of the string. So somewhere on the bridge, there's going to be an opportunity for the string to be held in place. And as we know, electric guitar strings have these ball ends on them. That ball end is what holds the string in place. Now, how that works is going to vary depending on the bridge. It might go through the trem block, it might go through the back, it might go through the body of the guitar, but somehow the string will pass through a hole like these, and then the ball at the end will stop the string going any further through the hole. And then all bridges will have saddles. Some like this will have a saddle for each string, some will have a saddle that covers multiple strings or all the strings, and they will be adjustable to allow you to adjust the height. In this case, you adjust the height by turning the Allen key, Allen screw here, which allows the front of the saddle to go up and down. The height of the string is the action. The first video in this A to Z series was about action, so do go and check that out. And most bridges will allow you to change the position of the saddle, so you can push it back or forward by changing the tightness of this screw that's at the back, this bolt that's at the back. And the reason you do that is the string goes over the top of the saddle here, and that's the anchor point right there where it touches. And by taking it back or forward, it helps you adjust the length of the string. Back, the string is now longer because it goes from here to that end, to where the neck is. And that's what we use to set the intonation of the string, a very, very important step in your setup to make sure your guitar is in tune. Instead of talking about intonation here, I've got a whole video coming up in this A to Z about intonation under I. So here I've got a few different bridges to show you. They're all different designs, and you might find them on different particular styles of guitars, but there's no reason you can swap bridges round on each guitar. Each type of bridge has the same elements in it, and I'll go into what those elements are at the moment. Just to give you an overview, here is a traditional Strat Tremolo system type bridge. This bridge is very similar without the tremolo system. It's what we might call a fixed hardtail bridge. And this one, which might be hard to see on the camera, but we'll look at closer in a moment, is very similar to the one before, fixed hardtail, but the strings on this go through the body instead of through the back of the bridge. Here we've got a Floyd Rose, which is a kind of advanced version of the tremolo system. Here is the traditional Telecaster type bridge with a space for a pickup on it. The Tunomatic, which is the sort of bridge you would find on something like a Les Paul or a Gibson SG, the Gibson sort of traditional style. And this one is a slight variation. It's not something I've seen on any guitars before, but I bought it because I thought it looked cool and I'm waiting for the right guitar to put it on. Now I do actually have a whole playlist of videos where I talk about different bridges in real in-depth information. The first one I made was the Floyd Rose. I've also got one about the Tunomatic bridge, one about Telecaster bridge, one about the traditional Strat system specific bridge. But here, let's go with the overview. For the Strat Tremolo here, it's got the bar on it, which is used to flex the strings. So when you push down on the bar, it's going to loosen the strings. When you pull up on it, it's going to tighten it. Some Strats will be set so you can just put down. Some are set so you can do both. I talk about that in the video I've specifically made about the Strat Tremolo system, but it's got this hard block underneath which goes through the guitar body. So the guitar will have a space routed in it for this. And the strings, here I've just got a spare E string to show you. The strings slot through the back of the body, up through the trem block, out of the top, and over the saddles, like so. Here we have the fixed hardtail bridge. It screws straight onto the body with these holes. And the holes on the back here that we can see are where the string threads through and then it comes through the hole for the saddle, and the string goes over the top just like so towards the neck. So this variation of the hardtail, I like it visually because it's got these side pieces on it. It's almost exactly the same, except it doesn't have those holes at the back for the string to go through. Instead, the strings go through the holes underneath. So there are holes for it to be screwed down to the guitar body and holes for the strings. So we just slot it through and it would come up here through the saddle and off to the neck. As I said, I do have a long video about this Floyd Rose bridge, how it works in great detail and how to set it up. But essentially it's very similar to that traditional Strat type trem block that it's got on it. The strings though are cut so they have a flat end, which then goes into the block here and is held in place by these screws at the back. So it's tightened and held in place. It then goes towards the neck. It has these additional screws which can be tightened and loosened to change the tuning very slightly by essentially raising and lowering the back part of the saddle where the string enters, and by raising and lowering it slightly, that's when you raise it, it's making the string a bit shorter, and when you lower it, it's pulling it a bit tighter, so making it a bit longer. The way the intonation is changed on here is these little bolts here will have an Allen key that you can turn, and you can slide the whole bridge saddle backwards and forwards. And this one, as you can see, has 3 separate holes there where you can put the bolt, the one that it's in and 2 other ones behind it, to allow much more maneuverability to pull the bridge saddle all the way back to here or push it all the way forward to here. So here's the traditional Tele style. It has just 3 saddles. Each saddle will take 2 strings on it. Just like the hardtail that I showed you before, there's holes in the back that the strings can thread through. So as you see, from this hole, it threads over the top part of the saddle. The next hole would go over the next part of the saddle. So that means this one saddle, when you adjust it, pulling it back or letting it go, when you adjust it, screwing it back or screwing it forwards, it essentially controls 2 strings at the same time. So for some people, a lot less control than managing each string independently. That's why you can also get tremolo bridges like this with a different setup. Here's one with a more traditional Strat style saddle on it. You can also get ones where there's 6 of these that look more like small versions of these saddles. Again, that's all covered in my long explanation of the Telecaster bridge, which also includes talking about ashtray covers. Something that I think are very cool, but you don't see that often anymore. Next up we have the Tunomatic, which is in 2 parts. So here we have the actual bridge itself with the saddles on it. I'm going to take that off and just put it here. And here we have the string or the tail stop, which the strings go through. We'll look at that in a minute. It comes off like this. So essentially in your guitar you would have 4 holes with these posts in it. The posts at the front to hold the bridge and saddles, the posts at the back to hold the tail stop. Both of them have the option to be changed in their height. So they have, this one screws like that. There's a line on the top for a screwdriver to go in. And if I completely unscrew it, you can see this is the what we call a ferrule that's screwed into the body and has the hole with the thread in that matches this screw. Now, just so you know, not all Tunomatics are going to look exactly the same with the same screw head on it. Some might adjust instead of like this, but with thumb wheels that turn. In fact, we're going to see that on this bridge in a moment. And at the front, again, it's got a small screwdriver head. And it turns. So you can raise the front and you can raise each side independently. Again, hold on, let's see the screw that goes into the ferrule. So you could, for example, raise this side higher than this side, which is one way you change your string action on the bridge. Again, full video on the Tunomatic really breaks down how that works, but essentially on the tail stop, it has some holes at the back that the strings go through, and that holds the strings nicely in place. And then they come over the top onto the bridge saddles here. So the saddles are adjustable with a screw at the back, but when you turn it, will bring the saddle here right to the front edge, and you can turn it the other way. These ones actually adjust with a screwdriver, but because there's no pressure on it from the string, I can do it with my finger, and you can see the saddle is slowly sliding to the back. Now let's move on to my final saddle here. What's interesting about this is it has a tail stop, just like we just saw on the Tunomatic, and the bridge itself. But on this bridge, if I bring it closer to you, you can see it's just one long piece with 6 grooves in for the strings. So this saddle doesn't let you move each string position independently. So you might, for example, have this saddle put at a bit of an angle, because as I talk about in my video about intonation, the back string, the lower strings, the low 6th string and the top 1st E string, they're likely to need to be a different position in relation to the nut on the guitar. So normally you would have the lower strings further back and the higher strings further forward. But that's all to do with intonation, covered in my intonation video. So this one has the thumb wheels in it, thumb wheels. I get lots of comments about my pronunciation. If I come in close here, you can see as I turn the thumb wheel, I can change the gap between the bass and the thumb wheel. So therefore, pushing the bridge slightly higher at that end. So that's one way to raise the action of the strings, by raising the saddle height. What I find interesting about this bridge is it looks like a traditional ashtray cover that you might find on something like a Telecaster, but it in fact acts as a very simple tail stop because it's got these little grooves in it. The string can just fit in it and pull against that and go over the front part of the bridge where the saddle is. The string just fitting in like that. Well, thanks for watching. And don't forget, the B you saw earlier is from a well-known brand. It's the first letter. Do you know what it is? At the end of this series, I'm going to put up a video which looks at what that is and what all the other letters in the alphabet that I'm using in the A to Z also are. It's basically a pub quiz. Guess the brand from the letter as it appears in their logo. So stay tuned for that. And whilst you're waiting for the other videos in this series to come out, you may want to check out this playlist. It focuses on different bridges. Each video is an in-depth exploration of a different type of bridge, from the Tunomatic to the Floyd Rose to your standard Stratocaster ones. I'm going to keep updating that in the future, so do like and subscribe to see what happens. Until next time, happy strumming.